angel actually took off her panties in public, turns out. Her panties were her weapon, and her target was none other than her own little sister. Today we bring you Panty Stocking with Garterbelt Season 2. At the end of the last season, Stocking suddenly sliced Panty into 666 pieces, vowing to scatter her remains on the road to fallen Angel City. Before Brief could even process his grief, Garterbelt dragged him into the car, explaining that even if an angel is chopped into 666 pieces, they can be revived as long as the fragments are collected and reassembled. With that, he took Brief and the demon sisters to fallen Angel City. Meanwhile, the little evil spirit corset revealed the reason behind Stocking's drastic change, yet secretly sent a minion into her ear, constantly feeding her the idea that she was a demon, to prevent her from regaining her senses. Corset sent another minion into her ear, but this backfired, causing Stocking to lose control of the demonic power and transform into a monstrous giant. Realizing that even without Brief as the key, Stocking now had enough power to open the gates of hell, Corset discarded Panty's fragments unprepared to command Stocking to unleash hell. However, even as a monster, Stocking's love for sweets remained unchanged. She started devouring nearby buildings as if they were desserts. Corset's attempts to control her again failed, and he was even squashed like a bug by Stocking. Just then Brief and the others arrived atop Stocking's monstrous form, carrying Panty's fragments. The place was now saturated with both demonic and angelic energy, the perfect spot for a resurrection ritual. But to their shock, the revived Panty turned into an innocent little girl, completely different from her usual self. Left with no choice, the demon sisters decided to enlarge Panty to match Stocking's size. They bought a potion from Hell's online store and poured it on her. Once Panty grew back to normal size, Brief finally realized what when Chuck had eaten one of Panty's fragments, preventing her from fully reviving. The group rushed toward Panty with the last missing piece, and even Corset, fearing that Hell's Gate would be destroyed by Stocking's rampage, temporarily joined forces with them. However, Panty's soul burned so intensely that everyone except Brief was instantly charred to a crisp. Remembering all the moments he shared with Panty, Brief awakened the power of the key within him and placed the final fragment back into her body. Now fully restored, Panty regained her angelic powers. She stripped off her panties, transforming them into a gun, and declared that since Stocking dared to cut her into 666 pieces, she'd return the favor by putting 666 holes in Stocking. As the battle raged on, Stocking gradually regained her senses, angrily accusing Panty of always stealing or putting on vowing to teach her a lesson. The two continued fighting while bickering until they eventually returned to their original forms. Garterbelt tried to separate them, but then a bell tolled, reminding Panty and Stocking of an important task they had to attend to. Garterbelt invited the demon sisters to return to the church with them, and so the group drove off together, though not before running over the shrunken corset on the way. Last episode, thanks to everyone's efforts, Panty was resurrected and Stocking was freed from the demon's control. Now, as usual, the sisters receive a new mission from headquarters. Except this time, the note is inexplicably torn in half. Just then, Scanty and Nisok's pet, Fasten, arrives with the missing half. Ever since Garterbelt invited them to cooperate, the demon sisters have been living in the church basement. The moment they meet, a fierce argument breaks out. Garterbelt silences them, saying that instead of wasting time quarreling, they should focus on exorcising more evil spirits. Seeing the demon sisters acting indifferent, Garterbelt informs them that due to the previous opening of the Hell Gate, countless evil spirits have escaped from the underworld. The Demon King has contacted him, ordering Scanty and Nisox to recapture the escaped spirits, otherwise, they'll be stuck in Dayton City forever. With a shared goal, the angels and demons immediately set out to hunt the spirits. Equipped with Hell's advanced technology, they soon detect an evil presence in a restaurant next to a tobacco shop, where coincidentally, Brief is working part-time. Since the place is crowded, they can't pinpoint the exact host of the spirit. Panty comes up with a brilliant idea. Since their weapons only harm evil beings, why not just shoot everyone in the restaurant? Without hesitation, they unleash a storm of bullets, only to realize that none of the patrons are possessed. Then, Stocking recalls the clue from the torn note and suspects the spirit might be hiding in the kitchen. Sure enough, they detect a sinister aura emanating from the deep fryer. Panty takes action and blows up the entire restaurant, forcing the evil spirit to reveal its true form. Both the angels and demons rush to claim the spirit's coin, but Garterbelt suddenly appears and explains that this demon is a fusion of two spirits, requiring a joint effort to defeat. Bound by the rules of the plot, Panty and the others reluctantly team up and destroy the massive demon. The explosion draws the attention of the police and firefighters, who mistake Brief for the culprit and try to arrest him. Fortunately, the blast also affects the neighboring tobacco shop, causing everyone to hallucinate, allowing Brief to escape. The next day, Panty finds a crowd of debt collectors gathered outside the church. It turns out that during her giant form's rampage to save Stocking, she destroyed multiple buildings, and the victims are now demanding massive compensation. To make matters worse, all her former flings have cut ties with her because of the incident. To help Panty repay her debt, Brief drags her to a card shop for a part-time job. There they spot a customer, carrying an ultra-rare card, the Blue Eyes White Uncle. A quick search reveals its market value is enough to cover Panty's debt. However, the only way to obtain it is by defeating the owner in a card game. Unfortunately, a mysterious hooded player who looks like a seasoned duelist has just won the card. Panty challenges him, only to discover that he's actually an evil spirit born from the resentment of discarded worthless cards. Since the rare card has been swallowed by the spirit, Panty can't simply destroy him with force. But as a complete newbie to the card game, she stands no chance. After a few turns, Panty's field is left with nothing but a seemingly useless weak card, while the spirit summons the Blue Eyes White Uncle for the finishing blow. Just then, Panty activates an equipment card from her hand, combining it with her weak card to unlock a hidden ability. Roll a 100-sided die, and if it lands on 100, the attack power is multiplied by 1,000,000. The spirit mocks her, saying there's no way a human could hit that one chance. Panty smirks and replies, "You're right, but I'm no human. I'm an angel." She rolls a perfect 100 and obliterates the spirit in a single strike. Unfortunately, right after obtaining the rare card, Panty learns that the manufacturer has mass-produced reprints, causing its value to plummet into worthlessness. Left with no other choice, she turns to Brief, offering to throw in her used panties if he buys the card. Without hesitation, Brief pays a hefty sum for it, only for Panty to immediately splurge the money on luxury goods and even become a shareholder in the store, completely ignoring her debts. At the start of this episode, Panty and Stocking get into another petty argument. Unable to contain her anger, Stocking storms over to Scanty and Nisok's place, declaring that she's cutting ties with Panty for good. Just then, Garterbelt arrives with a new mission, to hunt down an evil spirit hiding in a samurai dojo. Due to budget constraints, Garterbelt can only afford to send 2 people into the dojo. With Stocking and Panty temporarily parting ways, the task falls to the demon sisters. However, Nisok, hearing only that there wasn't enough funding, runs off to earn money instead, forcing Garterbelt to send Stocking and Scanty together. Upon arriving at the dojo, Stocking impresses the master with her exceptional swordsmanship. He privately approaches Stocking and Scanty, revealing that he knows they're there to hunt an evil spirit. To get clues about the spirit, they first have to wash his pet dog, a difficult task since the dog hates baths. One person must feed it jerky while the other scrubs it down. As expected, cooperation between an angel and a demon is a disaster, but after a fair struggle, they barely manage to finish the job. However, the master suddenly disappears. Searching the dojo, they discover that he is the evil spirit they've been hunting. This spirit proved to be a tough opponent. Attacks not only fail to harm him, but also cause him to split into more copies. Stocking and Scanty quickly find themselves overwhelmed. Stocking grumbles that if Panty were here, they wouldn't be in such a mess. Scanty mocks her, saying that despite all her complaints, Stocking secretly enjoys having her sister cling to her. Scanty admits she doesn't understand what it's like to be a younger sister, but as an older sister, she knows she'd do anything for her sibling. Her words strike a chord with Stocking, but escaping their current predicament takes priority. With her mind now clear, Stocking soon identifies the spirit's true form, and together with Scanty they destroy it. After leaving the dojo, Stocking finds Panty waiting outside to go get sweets with her. Still Chia Sundari, Stocking tries to refuse, but Scanty pushes her forward from behind. Seeing this, Stocking finally drops her pride and makes up with Panty. Meanwhile, a new social media app sweeps through Dayton City, and Stocking quickly becomes obsessed, uploading so many photos that she tops the popularity charts. But soon, the Demon Sisters join the app and steal her #1 spot. Seeing everyone in Dayton City becoming internet famous, Panty can't resist joining, and she posts a single sexy photo and effortlessly overtakes the Demon Sisters, claiming the top spot. The attention fuels her ego, and to maintain her position, she starts posting increasingly risky content. Stocking and Scanty, meanwhile, resort to their own methods to boost their popularity. At the first ever Dayton City Influencer Awards, the girls have become unrecognizable in their pursuit of clout. Just as the winner is about to be announced, an evil spirit crashes the ceremony, devouring Panty and the others, feeding on their vanity to grow stronger. Just when all hope seems lost, Panty and the rest realize they're being broadcast live to the entire city and the surge of attention generates an overwhelming rush of pleasure. The spirit can't handle the energy and explodes, abruptly ending the crisis in the most absurd way. At the beginning of the episode, Brief receives terrible news. The newly elected president of Dayton City has outlawed casual sex, sentencing Vanity to death. This charismatic leader, with his handsome looks and impressive list of accomplishments, seems unbeatable in the upcoming election. To save Panty, Brief decides to run for president but stands no chance against the incumbent. The Demon Sisters and Garterbelt aren't much help either, leaving Stocking, the adorable angel, as their only viable candidate. The group campaigns hard for Stocking, but her poll numbers still lag behind the president's. When fair competition fails, Stocking resorts to threatening him only to accidentally nearly kill him in the process. Since angel weapons can't harm ordinary humans, this reveals the president's true nature. He's a malevolent spirit in disguise. Exposed, the spirit drops the act, boasting about his plan to control Dayton City and admitting his heroic deeds were fabricated. With his true form revealed, Stocking swiftly eliminates him. Brief assumes this guarantees Stocking's victory, but shockingly, she loses the election by just 4 votes. With Panty seemingly doomed, her friends gather to say their goodbyes. But mid-execution, breaking news arrives: the new president has pardoned Panty. Everyone wonders who it could be until they turn on the TV and see Panty on Stocking's card, delivering an acceptance speech. The next day, Panty wakes up with a small cat spirit clinging to her, while Stocking and Scanty adore the cute newcomer. Panty only sees it as a source of heaven coin. Garterbelt explains the truth. The previous night, Panty had kicked over the cat's gravestone, creating the spirit. Hearing that such a small spirit would only be worth half a coin, Panty hatches a scheme, fatten it up for a bigger payout. She overfeeds it, hides Stocking's toys to prevent exercise, and Sue, a tiny kid who grows into a plump cat. But after bonding with it, Panty can't bring herself to harm it. She makes excuses to delay the inevitable, only to return and find the cat missing. Frantically searching, she finally spots the fading spirit. The cat, having felt Panty's love, is now at peace and ready to ascend to heaven. After a final embrace, it dissolves into starlight. From that day on, a gravestone stands in the churchyard, a resting place for those cherished memories. Later, a mysterious attacker begins transforming people into bizarre art styles with his laser. Panty and Stocking try to fight back but fail, even getting distorted themselves. Noticing a spirit fragment on his forehead, Panty destroys it, freeing him, but the church bell doesn't ring, and their forms remain altered. A cosmic spirit hunter appears, revealing he'd been pursuing a powerful entity when a meteor strikes and it crashes into Earth. Now, it's true from lunes in space, threatening the entire universe. Guided by the hunter, the group battles the entity in orbit, but it overwhelms them. In a final act, the hunter sacrifices himself to weaken it, allowing Panty and Stocking to regain their strength and destroy it. Or so they think. The spirit had evolved beyond their dimension, effortlessly wiping them out. Then, a mysterious force empowers Panty's gun, sending a bullet back in time to eliminate the spirit before it ever arrived. The power came from another Panty, one from a doomed timeline where the universe was destroyed. She devised this plan to rewrite fate. Now stranded in this altered reality, she joins the hunter to prevent future disasters. Back on Earth, Panty gazes at the sky, sensing something inexplicable. On this day, Scanty, who had been constipated for a long time, finally felt the urge to go. However, the moment she sat on the toilet, a massive tornado swept through Dayton City, lifting all the buildings into the air. Scanty soon noticed that the buildings had been transformed into giant sushi pieces. It turned out that an evil spirit, desperate for recognition of its sushi-making skills, had caused the storm. Nisaks recognized the spirit's attire as identical to the sushi restaurant where she worked part-time. She rushed into the shop, dragged the sushi master out, and threw him toward the spirit, hoping his approval would end the disaster. However, the master bluntly declared that the spirit's sushi was far from good enough, sending the spirit into a rage and triggering an even fiercer storm. This was the last straw for the already constipated Scanty, who just wanted to relieve herself in peace. Enraged, she unleashed her full power and instantly obliterated the evil spirit. Finally, she could use the bathroom in peace. The next day, Panty and Stocking were about to exterminate a turtle evil spirit when Garterbelt suddenly appeared and stopped them. He sympathized deeply with the spirit, born from the abandonment of its owner, and tearfully embraced it. Seeing this, Panty and Stocking simply put away their weapons and went about their business. The following day, Brief informed Panty Stocking that Garterbelt was acting strangely. At first, they didn't take his words seriously until they saw Garterbelt completely fused with the turtle spirit. Things quickly took a turn for the worse when Garterbelt transformed into a monstrous, house-sized turtle. Panty Stocking chased him to the beach, only to find that he had laid a clutch of baby turtles. Unable to bear the thought of the hatchlings being eaten by seagulls, they escorted them safely into the ocean. Unfortunately, this act of kindness backfired. The baby turtles soon mutated into monstrous creatures and began attacking Dayton City. As the city teetered on the brink of becoming Turtle Angel City, Panty Stocking had no choice but to join forces and eliminate the turtle monster Garterbelt to stop the disaster. Thankfully, Garterbelt was restored to normal. Later, Panty spotted what she thought was another turtle light on the street, only to realize it was just a golf ball. Relieved, she joked that she thought Garterbelt had transformed again, unaware that in a dark corner, a platypus version of Garterbelt had just been born. Around the same time, a serial killer targeting blonde sluts began terrorizing Dayton City. Brave grew increasingly worried about Panty's safety, but she brushed off his concerns, boasting that she'd teach the killer a lesson if they dared come after her. Suddenly, a group of police officers approached, offering a safe house for potential victims. Panty was about to refuse until she spotted a handsome detective among them and eagerly accepted the offer. The moment she arrived at the safe house, Panty dragged one of the detectives into a private room for some exercise. Brief, meanwhile, disguised himself to sneak inside only to be ambushed by the killer. After attacking Brief, the murderer moved on to Panty's room. However, Panty was ready and shot the killer's right hand off, revealing that the so-called serial killer was actually an evil spirit. Realizing Panty was too much to handle, the spirit fled. Meanwhile, the police discovered another victim at a laundromat. Just as everyone was at a loss for how to track down the spirit, Brief suddenly revived. It turned out the evil spirit had only been mimicking the real killer's methods and hadn't actually harmed him. This meant the true culprit was still at large. By tracking the spirit's stolen foe, Brief located its hideout in the real killer, a struggling actress who had always been typecast as minor roles. She ranted about how society expected blonde sluts to die first in movies, limiting her career until she was reduced to B-list films. The evil spirit had been born from her resentment. Pathetic, she sneered. Even the evil spirit born from my hatred is third-rate. It couldn't even kill properly. Brief disagreed, arguing that even B-movies had their merits. His words moved the spirit, which then turned on the actress, eliminating her before vanishing in a flash of light. And so, the serial killer case came to a dramatic close. In this episode, Scanty and Knee Socks grow frustrated with Panty Stocking dumping all the chores on them and decide to challenge them to a contest. Whoever eliminates more evil spirits within the time limit wins, and the losers must become the winner's slaves. At first, Panty Stocking are fired up, but the endless hordes of spirits quickly wear them down, and they slack off instead. Suddenly, a blinding light forces them to shut their eyes when they open them. The unfamiliar angels stand before them. Without warning, the newcomers force Panty Stocking to their knees with some unknown power and threaten to revoke their heaven licenses. Learning their names are Polyester and Polyurethane, Stocking realizes they're the sons of Heaven's Inspector Raimi, true nepotism babies. Garterbelt immediately grew jealous, handing over Panty Stocking's licenses, which Polyester promptly destroys. He mocks his outdated sisters, telling them to retire already. To demonstrate their superiority, Polyester fires at empty air only for spirits to materialize and be obliterated seconds later. He boasts that Heaven's latest tech predicts spirit appearances in advance. Infuriated by their arrogance, Panty Stocking draw their weapons, only for them to be turned into useless scrap metal. Scanty and Knee Socks, watching smugly, burst into laughter until Polyester transforms them into a grotesque hell horse. After toying with everyone, Polyester and Polyurethane declare their workday over and doctor off in a luxury car. Though sitting, Panty Stocking know their priority is fixing their weapons. Brief finds an online shop specializing in lingerie-themed arms, and they visit Gunsmith Bitch on a whim. Shockingly, the owner is Brief's Sotaku classmate's Cool was just a cover. Her real identity, a weapons mogul who develops and sells lingerie armament. Impressed by her skills, Panty Stocking make their request, but the cost is steep. Panty offers her body as payment, but the shop owner, a true weapon enthusiast, isn't interested. Fortunately, she recognizes Panty's weapon as a rare model and, after some hands-on research, agrees to a buy now pay later deal, throwing in extra gear and intel on Polyester's whereabouts. Following the lead, Panty and Stocking find polyester and polyurethane at a hospital, guiding souls to heaven. Their ridiculous appearance invites mockery, enraging the duo, who try to force them to their knees again. This time, Panty and Stocking counter with anti-gravity devices from the shop. As the stalemate dries off, Panty proposes a rematch. Whoever kills more spirits wins. And if they lose, polyester and polyurethane must scram back to heaven. The contest begins. Polyester and polyurethane take an early lead with heaven's debt, but Panty and Stocking catch up using spirit detection glasses from the shop. Seeing this, the brothers drop their facade, transforming flamboyantly and unleashing their true power, wiping out spirits en masse. Desperate, Panty and Stocking restores Candy and knee socks to normal, recruiting their help. But heaven's tech proves overwhelming. Polyester and polyurethane's car even has a disassemblably function, effortlessly countering their pincer attack. The battle splits into the front, with both sides trading fire while still eliminating spirits. The excessive destruction causes the remaining spirits to merge into a colossal spherical demon, meaning whoever destroys it wins. Refusing defeat, Polyester and polyurethane order a massive arsenal online for a final strike. Panty's team, out of options, discovers a portal at the bottom of their back. The shop owner's last offer: want premium upgrades for extra cash? With no time to think, Panty demands everything. Supercharged, their weapons obliterate the brothers' combat vehicle and annihilate the spherical demon, securing victory. Suddenly, a massive hand pierces the clouds. It's Raimi, here to drag his disgraceful sons home. He scolds them for reckless spending, undermines them. Panty and Stocking are the daughters of God, warning them to know their place, promising to help restore their licenses. Raimi leaves with the humiliated duo, as Panty and Stocking eye their hard-earned gold coins, dreaming of a shopping spree. The shop owner reappears, snatching the money and thanking them for their patronage. It seems the duo still has a long way to go before earning enough to return to heaven. One day, the boys finally couldn't stand the girls' endless nagging on daughters anymore. Led by Garterbelt, they took Brief's father's luxury car and headed to the casino city for a good time. Unexpectedly, just after setting off, their car was rammed and split into by another vehicle. Brief discovered that the culprits were none other than Polyester and Polyurethane, who had been driven away in the previous episode. The two brothers were also on their way to the casino city for a vacation. Learning that Garterbelt and the others had the same destination, they offered them a ride. On the way, Brief asked Garterbelt if this could be some kind of scheme by the brothers. Overhearing their conversation, the brothers assured them not to worry, it was their vacation time, and they weren't the type to mix work with personal life. As they talked more, Brief and Garterbelt realized that the Angel brothers not only shared many similar interests, but were also far more approachable and easy to get along with than they seemed. So, they arrived at the casino city, only to find it under attack by evil spirits. Garterbelt and Brief were no match for the spirits on their own, and with Panty and the others nowhere to be found, Garterbelt thought of Polyester and Polyurethane, hoping they would step in to eliminate the threat. However, the brothers firmly refused, stating they would not do any work-related tasks during their vacation. Left with no other choice, Garterbelt and Brief decided to take on the evil spirits themselves, just as they were about to become the spirits' prey. And as Brief was delivering his last words, Panty and the others arrived just in time to save them. It turned out they had coincidentally seen the news of Brief and Garterbelt being attacked on TV and rushed over to scold them for slacking off on their assigned tasks. But for now, the priority was to deal with the destructive evil spirits. However, before Panty and Scanty could even make a move, the spirits had already been reduced to a pile of heaven coins. It was Polyester and Polyurethane, now back on duty, who had eliminated the spirits and taken the coins. Brief pleaded with them to stop targeting Panty and the others for the sake of their friendship, but the brothers simply replied that they weren't the type to mix work with personal life and left. On the way home, Panty and Stocking, as usual, piled a bunch of tasks on Brief and the others. It seemed their vacation was well and truly over. The next day, Panty and Stocking were arrested on various bizarre charges and sent to a women's prison. To their surprise, Scanty and Knee Socks were also there, charged with the crime of illegally feeding pigeons. As the senior inmates, Scanty assigned Panty and Stocking all sorts of dirty and exhausting tasks. Unable to tolerate this, Panty and Stocking decided to dig a tunnel to escape, just like in the movies. Strangely, by the next day, the wall had completely repaired itself, with no trace of their digging left. Thinking Scanty was sabotaging them, Panty dragged Stocking along to teach the demon sisters a lesson. As they pondered other escape plans, Stocking discovered that the prison was organizing a football match. and the winners would be granted exoneration on release. To win the game, Panty and Stocking began recruiting teammates from among the inmates. Needing to marquee players, Panty naturally thought of the Demon Sisters. When they seemed reluctant to help, Panty expressed disappointment, saying she had hoped to form an unbeatable team with them. Scandy was surprised by Panty's trust, which touched her, and she eventually accepted the invitation. On the day of the match, with the Demon Sisters' help, Panty easily broke through the defenses. However, right in front of the goal, she suddenly pretended to trip and missed the scoring opportunity. It turned out that the night before, a mysterious figure had approached her, promising a group of attractive men as a reward if she drew the game. Such an offer was too tempting for Panty to refuse. Strangely, it seemed like no one else was trying to win either. After asking around, Panty learned that everyone had been offered similar deals to fix the match. She was exasperated, realizing she had agonized over the decision for nothing. At that moment, the mysterious figure revealed their true form. The entire prison was actually an evil spirit in disguise. The spirit believed that bitches like Panty and the others deserved to be locked up forever. This infuriated Panty and the others, who decided to teach the spirit a lesson for looking down on them. The other inmates rallied behind Panty and the team, cheering them up. This caused the evil spirit's bitch energy to plummet. In the end, with seamless cooperation, Panty and the others easily won the football match, and the evil spirit was destroyed. Lately, Panty has been swearing more and more frequently. Almost everyone who runs into her ends up getting an earful of her foul language. One day, everyone was sitting together enjoying a DVD from Garterbelt's collection, a brilliant musical film. Sadly, the lead actor passed away shortly after completing this masterpiece, making the DVD an invaluable treasure for a fan like Garterbelt. However, Panty was utterly dismissive of it, mocking the idea of people singing while talking and calling it downright stupid. This time, everyone had finally had enough of her vulgar mouth. To teach her a lesson, Garterbelt contacted the Heaven Discipline Committee. So, Panty was divinely punished. A ring was placed on her tongue that would cut it off whenever she swore. Unable to curse, Panty found life unbearable. Brief suggested that she give the musical a chance, hoping she might come to love it. Panty insisted that was impossible unless someone could turn her words into song. To prove her point, she demonstrated, and to her surprise, the ring didn't react. Thrilled to have found a loophole, Panty was still too embarrassed to sing her curses aloud in front of others. With Brief's encouragement, she mustered the courage to sing out her inner vulgarities, and unexpectedly, these tunes became a hit among the residents of Dayton City. Panty quickly rose to fame, even landing a concert at the city's largest theater. After the performance, Panty proudly declared herself a musical genius. Suddenly, her tongue began moving on its own. It was possessed by the resentful spirit of the musical's lead actor, who had always regretted never performing on the biggest stage. Now that his wish was fulfilled, he could finally rest in peace. Just then, the sound of fans chanting for an encore echoed outside the dressing room. Panty stopped the fading spirit, declaring, "The real show is just beginning, isn't it?" With angelic magic, the spirit was restored to a physical form, and together they delivered a spectacular concert. However, the angels' singing was too overwhelming for mortal ear. To prevent Dayton City from descending into chaos, Garterbelt once again called the Heaven Discipline Committee. This time, they upgraded the ring's detection function. Now, even if Panty sings her swear words, they'll be detected. On this day, in order to get her hands on the limited edition dessert she had been craving, Stocking put aside her mission to eliminate evil spirits and rushed to participate in a rock-paper-scissors competition. Only the winner would qualify to purchase the dessert. However, luck did not seem to be on Stocking's side today. So, the organizers announced that only one last portion of the dessert remained. Stocking was determined to win no matter what. Unexpectedly, her final opponent turned out to be an evil spirit that had emerged precisely because it couldn't get the limited edition dessert. This made things much easier for Stocking. He swiftly defeated it. But then, out of nowhere, more evil spirits began to appear. No matter how hard Stocking fought, it seemed like they would never end. Fed up, Stocking called up the gun bitch and purchased a massive sword from her capable of annihilating 100 million evil spirits in an instant. With this, Stocking finally succeeded in buying the dessert she had been longing for. However, the gun bitch informed her that the heaven coins Stocking had paid were not enough to cover the cost of the weapon. Since that was the case, she would just take the dessert in Stocking's hand as payment. In the end, Stocking still didn't get to enjoy her treat. The next day, Polyester and Polyurethane devised a plan to lure Panty and Stocking away so they could sneak into their rooms and search for their weaknesses. Polyester quickly made it to Panty's room. But aside from piles of trash everywhere, the only thing there was a strange machine. Polyester accidentally triggered a switch and found herself restrained on the bed by the machine. Just as she was about to lose her innocence, Brief's voice suddenly came from outside the door. Not wanting to be seen in such a state, Polyester struggled desperately to free herself from the machine's grip. In the process, she accidentally hit another switch, causing the machine to disguise her as Panty. Brief didn't realize that the Panty before him was actually Polyester in disguise. He only noticed that the zipper on her back was undone and offered to help fix it. Polyester saw this as an opportunity to pry into Panty's weaknesses, but when she turned around, she found that Brief had fainted from excitement. Meanwhile, Polyurethane wasn't faring much better. He was tormented half to death by Stocking's automatic dessert dispenser. To avoid being recognized by Scanty and Knee Socks, who had come looking for Stocking, he had no choice but to disguise himself as Stocking. So, it was dinner time. Polyester and Polyurethane, who had failed to carry out their plan on escape, found the idea of having dinner with their enemies hard to stomach. Just then, their end of workday alarm sounded. Since it was now after hours, there was no such thing as enemies. With that mindset, the two sat down and began to enjoy their dinner. That morning, Panty woke up from a dream to find that only she and Knee Socks were left at home. For some reason, Knee Socks seemed particularly upset that day. After asking, Panty learned that it was Knee Socks' birthday. When they were younger, Scanty had promised Knee Socks that she would spend every birthday with her. But today, for some reason, Scanty was nowhere to be found. The thought made Knee Socks cry again out of sadness. Wanting to cheer her up, Panty decided to take Knee Socks out for an unforgettable birthday herself. She took Knee Socks out, gave her a stylish new hairstyle, and specially picked out a dress for her before bringing her to the dance hosted by Brief's school. With Panty by her side, Knee Socks' mood improved significantly. Unexpectedly, Polyester and Polyurethane also showed up at the dance. Since it was after working hours, they weren't allowed to use force to settle matters and instead decided to compete with Panty and Knee Socks through dancing. Just then, an evil spirit attacked the dance. It swallowed Polyester and Polyurethane and then turned to attack Panty and Knee Socks. Panty prepared to fight back but realized she hadn't brought any weapons with her that day. Left with no choice, Knee Socks had to face the evil spirit alone. However, after swallowing the angels, the evil spirit gained the ability to continuously regenerate. Knee Socks alone was no match for it. To make matters worse, the glasses Scanty had given Knee Socks as a child were accidentally destroyed by the evil spirit during the fight. At the critical moment, Brief arrived with weapons for Panty. Working together, they finally managed to defeat the evil spirit. After the battle, Knee Socks found her sister Scanty in the rubble. It turned out Scanty had left early in the morning to buy a gift for Knee Socks, but had been swallowed by the evil spirit on her way back. Scanty presented Knee Socks with a brand new pair of glasses and complimented her on her new hairstyle and dress. Asking where they came from, Knee Socks simply replied that it was a secret. The story of this episode takes place in two parallel worlds. In the first world, a meteorite lands on the Antarctic continent. Scientists arrive to investigate, only to discover a blonde girl emerging from the meteorite. For some reason, anyone who lays eyes on her is overcome with an urge to mate with her, then dies. So, the entire research station is left with only one observer named Brief. Seizing an opportunity when the creature is distracted, he decapitates her. Unexpectedly, even this fails to kill her, and Brief is instead bitten in a vital spot by the creature's head. So, backup troops arrive and retrieve the creature and Brief's body, intending for scientist Stocking to study them. However, the creature takes advantage of the situation and merges with Stocking, taking control of her. Officer Garterbelt, witnessing this, attempts to personally eliminate the creature, but even bullets prove ineffective against it. Instead, Garterbelt loses his life to the creature. With his dying breath, Garterbelt transfers his consciousness into the already deceased Brief. It turns out that, like the creature, he is from outer space, and has been pursuing this monster across hosts by transferring his consciousness between humans. Now that the creature has absorbed enough nutrients and grown even stronger, human power alone is no match for it. Left with no other choice, Brief transfers his consciousness into an animal named Chuck. Driven by the instinct to survive, Chuck quickly grows to an enormous size. Equipped with advanced alien weaponry, he ultimately destroys the creature in a mutual demise. The second story takes place in a world filled with demons. A young Panty witnesses her homeland destroyed by a demon dragon. Seeking revenge, she embarks on a journey with her partner and steed, Stocking, to find the demon dragon. So, They discover the dragon's minions and the dragon itself in human form in a village. The dragon mocks Panty's weakness and orders its minions to eliminate her before departing. After slaughtering the dragon's minions, Panty learns the location of the dragon's lair from an elf named Brief. Under Panty's threat, Brief becomes her guide and leads her to the dragon's stronghold. Along the way, Panty eliminates numerous demons and saves many people. As time passes, she and Brief gradually become friends. To prevent Brief from risking his life alongside her, Panty leaves the key behind and slips away quietly while Brief is still asleep. So, Panty encounters the demon dragon again, now restored to its full power and true form. Despite exerting all her strength, Panty cannot harm the dragon, and even Stocking dies in the battle, consumed by the dragon. To ensure Stocking's sacrifice is not in vain, Panty uses Stocking's corpse to shield herself from the dragon's flames and ultimately defeats the dragon with Stocking's tail. In this episode, Panty and the others are exploring an ancient ruin. While avoiding traps, the three venture deeper into the structure. It is said that the ruin contains a treasure capable of unleashing infinite desire in anyone who possesses it. However, after some investigation, Brief learns that the builders of the ruin originally worshipped the sacred goddess of harvest until one day, the goddess became obsessed with men and, using her divine charm, trained all the males of the tribe. Brief suspects that the so-called treasure might actually be a crystallization of the resentment of these deceased men, Panty and Stocking. However, pay no mind to this, they simply want to retrieve the item and leave the place as quickly as possible. So, they find the so-called treasure deep within the ruin. Unfortunately, Scanty and the Socks, who are also there to search for the treasure, arrive at the same time. The two groups engage in a fierce battle over the treasure, resulting in the destruction of part of the ruin and the treasure ending up stuck on Brief's head. Suddenly, a mysterious voice echoes in Brief's mind, and his body starts moving uncontrollably toward a certain location. Thinking that Brief is trying to escape with the treasure, Panty and the others immediately hop on a minecart and chase after him. Amid the intense pursuit, Brief suddenly unleashes an astonishing power that repels everyone. As Brief falls into a deep pit with the treasure, Panty and Stocking leap down after him without hesitation. By the time they catch up, Brief has already been possessed by an evil spirit within the treasure and transformed into a giant monster. No matter how hard Panty attacks, she cannot harm him. Stocking suspects that the evil spirit is absorbing power from the ruin to sustain itself, allowing it to regenerate continuously. To defeat it, Panty lures the monster out of the ruin. Sure enough, once outside, the evil spirit becomes extremely weak and is easily destroyed. Stocking remarks that she had expected such a powerful evil spirit to bring them a big reward, little knowing that a vast amount of treasure was buried on the other side of the ruin completely missed by them. On another day, Stocking discovers that her beloved stuffed cat toy has been ruined in the wash by Garterbelt. Just as she is about to repair it, a mysterious stranger suddenly appears and stops her. The stranger claims to be from the future, explaining that if Stocking repairs the toy here, it will lead to a future overrun by cat-shaped robots that dominate the world. At first, Stocking doesn't believe him until an actual cat-shaped robot also travels back to their time. Working together, they manage to destroy the robot. Still, not being able to repair her beloved toy leaves Stocking feeling sad. Gunsmith Bitch suggests that someone else could repair the toy for Stocking instead. She then takes Stocking back in time to find the toy's original maker. To Stocking's surprise, the toy was actually made by Garterbelt. He explains that he recently took in two little girls, but the younger sister has been crying constantly because she misses home, so he decided to make a stuffed toy for her. After repairing Stocking's toy, Garterbelt asks if he can make another one just like it. Stocking agrees and reminds him to be careful when washing the toy in the future. After thanking Garterbelt, Stocking and Gunsmith Bitch leave unaware that the mysterious stranger has also followed them to this timeline. He ambushes Garterbelt, believing that eliminating the maker will secure the future. Little does he know that his actions will lead the future down an entirely unknown world line. This episode draws inspiration from several films, but overall, it still feels somewhat lackluster. This year's Christmas Eve seemed to find everyone busy with their own plans. For instance, Brief was using a robot he built himself to defy whether Panty would fall in love with him. Gunsmith Bitch, who happened to be passing by, suggested that instead of relying on a robot, he should let a master diviner or like her calculate the odds for him. However, the results showed that Brief's chance of a successful confession to Panty was zero, unless he chose Lingerie Paradise as the location, in which case his chances would increase by a negligible amount. Thinking that any chance above zero was still an opportunity, Brief immediately started scrambling to buy tickets for Lingerie Paradise. Yet, Gunsmith Bitch's divination also revealed that Brief's probability of successfully getting tickets was equally zero. Meanwhile, Nisox, who was watching a movie, couldn't stand the noise of Panty having sex with Santa Claus upstairs. She stormed into Panty's room and demanded they keep it down. Instead, she found herself being asked by Santa Claus, who had been accidentally injured during the act, to take over his task of delivering Christmas gifts. After Nisox finished delivering the gifts and returned home, she found everyone busy putting up Christmas decorations. It turned out that, for various reasons, everyone's original Christmas plans had fallen through, leaving them no choice but to gather together again to spend Christmas Eve. To thank Nisox for completing his task, Santa prepared a special gift for her. When Nisox opened it, she discovered it was the very lingerie paradise tickets Brief longed for, and even a family package. Seizing this rare opportunity, Nisox simply invited everyone to go to lingerie paradise together to celebrate New Year's Eve. However, plans often can't keep up with changes. On this day, Panty Stocking received a letter from Heather. Their father, Linear, wished for them to return to heaven immediately. Although unsure of the reason, Panty Stocking decided to go back, meaning they likely wouldn't be able to join Brief and the others for New Year's Eve at lingerie paradise. Thinking his confession plan was about to be ruined, Brief strongly objected to Panty Stocking leaving. With no other choice, Panty Stocking had to take Brief and the others along to heaven, planning to return together afterwards to visit lingerie paradise. After asking Chuck and Fastener to stay behind and look after the house, everyone boarded the bus bound for heaven. Panty initially thought that, as the daughters of the Heavenly Emperor, bringing a few people along would be effortless. However, the border guards only recognized official permits, not individuals. They wouldn't even let Panty Stocking through, let alone the others. Just everyone was at a loss. Polyester and polyurethane appeared, conveying an order from Heaven's chief prosecutor Rami. Panty Stocking were permitted to bring relevant divine personnel with them. With the chief prosecutor's verbal decree, everyone was allowed to pass together except Brief, who, being an ordinary human article, was deemed an irrelevant person and barred from entry. Left with no choice, he had to wait outside the checkpoint for Panty and the others to return. Unexpectedly, he overheard a conversation between two guards, got startled, and fell back to the human world. Meanwhile, Panty Stocking met their father and mother. From them, they learned that because their scandals had been exposed, Linear's public support rating had plummeted drastically. To avoid a potential coup, Linear planned to pass his throne to Panty Stocking. At that moment, Rami suddenly interrupted their conversation. He immediately arrested Scanty and the others, accusing Panty Stocking of not only smuggling irrelevant personnel into heaven, but also consorting with demons. He declared that such individuals were utterly unqualified to inherit the throne, and that he himself was the rightful successor. Initially, Linear thought his younger brother was joking, until Rami tricked him into signing the throne transfer agreement, making Linear realize Rami was serious. After successfully usurping the throne, Rami transformed Linear and his wife into powder and collected them. He then summoned the gods of heaven, proclaiming that heaven was now under his control. To completely reform the decadent heaven under Linear's rule, he decided to merge all the heavenly gods into one entity. At first, the others didn't understand what Rami meant, until he transformed all the gods into powder and forged them into a giant statue. It was then that Garterbelt realized Rami intended to use the lives of the gods to create the legendary forbidden weapon. Meanwhile, Brief, who had fallen back to the human world, landed right in front of Gunsmith Bitch's shop. From the guard's conversation, he had already learned of Rami's plan. Worried that Panty and the others might be in danger, Brief urgently asked Gunsmith Bitch to find a way to get him back to heaven. For a mortal, the only legitimate way to enter heaven was through death. Therefore, Gunsmith Bitch prepared a fake death potion for Brief. Not only that, he also enlisted Chuck as Brief's helper. Under the effect of the potion, Brief and Chuck set off on the path to heaven. Back in heaven, Panty Stocking stated that this was an internal matter of heaven and had nothing to do with Scanty and the others. They demanded that Rami release them and deal directly with themselves instead. Unexpectedly, Scanty mocked Panty, asking why she was acting so cool, and stated that she and Nisox hadn't fallen so low as to need Angel's help to escape danger. Annoyed by their remarks at such a time, Panty Stocking couldn't help but prepare to teach them a lesson, but accidentally ended up knocking Scanty and the others out of heaven. Polyester and polyurethane believed this was all part of Panty's plan and requested permission from Rami to pursue the escaped demons. Rami, however, was unconcerned, stating that with the forbidden weapon, both the human world and hell would be obliterated in an instant. leaving them nowhere to escape. Since Panty and Stocking were still only angels and couldn't be used as material for the weapon, Rami decided to turn them into stone statues, forcing them to witness how he would destroy the human world and hell, simultaneously. Garterbelt, back in the human world, also found gunsmith Bitch. Learning that Brief and Chuck had already returned to heaven using the fake death potion, Garterbelt drank the fake death potion without hesitation. However, not everyone goes to heaven after death. When Garterbelt woke up, he found himself in the borderlands of hell. Furthermore, he encountered Scanty and Socks there. Upon hearing that Garterbelt wanted them to return to heaven with him to save Panty and Stocking, Scanty asked why they should care about those dead angels' fate. Garterbelt told them to think back on the time they spent living with Panty and the others. However, Scanty and Socks could only recall being treated like servants by Panty and Stocking. Although it wasn't exactly what Garterbelt had planned, Scanty and Socks, thinking they couldn't let those two off so easily, agreed to his request. Coincidentally, a rainbow bridge shot down from heaven into hell at that moment. Garterbelt and the others decided to climb back to heaven via this path. Halfway up, they noticed a speck of god powder rolling down the bridge towards hell. Realizing this was Rami's signal to declare war on hell, Scanty knew time was running short. She summoned Fastener, commanding it to revert to its jaded dragon form to carry them swiftly to heaven. Elsewhere, Brief and Chuck, who had infiltrated heaven, managed to steal the petrified figures of Panty and Stocking. Just as they were cornered by polyester and polyurethane, Garterbelt arrived with Scanty and Socks just in time to rescue them. Infuriated by this group repeatedly disrupting his plans, Rami decided to eliminate them personally. He told Brief that even a human couldn't completely withstand the damage from heavenly weapons. Brief responded that he would protect Panty, even if it meant being shattered to pieces. Just as Rami prepared to finish off Brief, the petrified Panty and Stocking suddenly moved and blocked his attack. Rami was shocked that they could move even as statues. He ordered polyester and polyurethane to join him in eliminating these traitors of heaven. Surprisingly, the heavenly weapons not only failed to harm Panty and Stocking but also cured their petrification. It turned out that because Panty and Stocking had both died in the human world and been reborn there, they were no longer angels originating from heaven, thus making them immune to heavenly weapons. Rami retorted that it didn't matter, as activating the forbidden weapon would ultimately allow him to rule the world. With that, he merged with polyester and polyurethane, transforming into a giant humanoid mecha to battle Panty and the others. Panty and the others declared they couldn't let Rami's boring plan ruin their New Year's Eve plans for lingerie paradise. United, they worked together to destroy Rami's mecha form. As Panty and the others approached, Rami tried to make a last stand. Unexpectedly, Gunsmith Bitch appeared at that moment, stating that to thank Panty and the others for their continued patronage, he had prepared a new weapon for them free of charge this time, the bastard gun. Wielding the bastard gun, Panty finally succeeded in defeating Rami and his cohorts. However, unnoticed by everyone, Rami had secretly activated the launch mechanism. Garterbelt deduced that injecting the bastard energy from the bastard gun into the statue could disrupt the energy balance within, reverting the statue back into the gathered gods. Without delay, everyone charged towards the statue, holding the bastard gun high. Ultimately, they destroyed the statue just before it could fall into hell. Afterwards, Panty and Stocking's father, Linear, resumed his position on the Heavenly Emperor's throne. As for Rami, Linear didn't punish him severely but instead exiled him, along with polyester and polyurethane, to the human world. Finally, New Year's Day arrived. With everyone's help, Brief successfully confessed to Panty on the Ferris wheel. Just as everyone thought things had concluded perfectly, a giant hand suddenly appeared and snatched away Brief and Panty. Several years later, Stocking replaced Garterbelt as the priest. One day, she gave an order to the children who bore a striking resemblance to Brief and Panty, to find their missing father and mother. And so, the story comes to a pause here. Just like the first season, the tale of Panty and Stocking concludes with an unexpected development. As for whether there will be a third season, that remains a matter of perhaps within our lifetime. Follow my channel for the latest updates on new anime storyline.